If you've been an avid watcher of The Summer I Turned Pretty, or even just a light consumer, one of those guys who sits in the corner and says that they don't want to watch the show but really could name every single character by their nickname if they were asked, then I'm sure you could recall many moments from the show based on the song that played in the background. Like Wild Horses by the Rolling Stones in the infamous Peach scene, or Lacey at the beginning of episode 2, With or Without You by U2 when Conrad finally speaks up for himself and doesn't go back on his word. Or my personal favorite that I had to rewind and watch twice, No Surprises by Radiohead in episode 3, perfectly timed to the words, My Final Bellyache. The production behind The Summer I Turned Pretty has always had this knack for picking the perfect song to depict the feeling that they want to get across in a specific scene. Like Exile by Taylor Swift and Bon Iver at the motel, or Mayonnaise by the Smashing Pumpkins at prom, or Invisible String by Taylor Swift on the beach in the snow. But there was something about this past summer, this past season, that really set it over the edge for me. I've always been a believer that music can be made for certain moments, but that we have to tap into that belief to truly get the most out of what it can offer. For instance, in my life, there was a moment where I was sitting in my car crying because I felt really behind in life, and as soon as I collected myself, turned the key to start the car, Don't Delete the Kisses by Wolf Alice came on just as I pulled away. I had to laugh at how cinematic it felt. Or there was a moment where I was lying in my backyard stargazing and I was listening to The Tourist by Radiohead. That song in that moment allowed me to feel like I was lifting off of the earth and into the sky. But both of those moments wouldn't have meant as much as they did if I didn't allow them to flourish. It's the same logic for why some songs hype us up to work out and others prompt us to tear up. It's because there's influence not only behind words but chords as well. Today I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the psychology of it, the beauty of it, and how we can use it as a tool to make life just that much more magical. And do that through the lens of The Summer I Turned Pretty, because frankly, I just need an excuse to talk about it. Music can be a very strong tool to develop community, and that's something that I believe The Summer I Turned Pretty has really nurtured this past season. The beauty about all kinds of art to me is that the quality of it is determined by how much the artist pushes it to be great. And by putting a lot in, you allow the audience to take just as much out of it. You wouldn't be watching this video or listening to the podcast if the team hadn't thought about each and every song and why they wanted to use it. Because I wouldn't have even had the thought to make this if that amount of care hadn't gone into the production of the show. When a team thinks about things deep enough, it allows the audience to do the same, which is why we see this mass obsession with the show just taking over the internet. Of course, this is for many reasons other than just music, but today I really want to talk about how a soundtrack can elevate a show or a film. There are many incredible soundtracks that come to mind when I think about film and TV. The scores that I think about immediately are, of course, Interstellar and Star Wars for their undeniable mark on film. But there are also TV shows like One Day, High Fidelity, One Tree Hill that perfectly encompass the emotion on screen as it happens. The Summer I Turned Pretty fits into this second category. And by choosing the perfect song for a moment, it allows it to become so much more than just a scene. It becomes a memory for us, a talking point. And from there, it can build an entire community based around one singular show. So let's talk psychology. Why does music actually enhance a moment? Whether it's when you're watching or something that you're actually experiencing in life, the simple answer is the one that you hear all the time. that music releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that is responsible for pleasure and heavily affects our mood. Along with this is also an increase in serotonin, another really important neurotransmitter, which, according to Harvard Health, can affect a variety of functions and behaviors, including memory, fear, the stress response, digestion, addiction, sexuality, sleep, breathing, and body temperature. But the longer answer and the more interesting one is the amount of engagement that's happening in your brain when you're simply just listening to a song. When a song is ringing through your headphones, what is happening in the brain is this. And I quote from kennedycenter.org because they explained it so well. Sound waves from an instrument or a sound system reach the outer ear. In the middle ear, the sound waves cause the eardrum and tiny bones to vibrate. The middle ear passes these vibrations to the inner ear. The inner ear includes the snail-shaped cochlea. Inside the fluid-filled cochlea, there are 20,000 to 30,000 tiny hair cells. These hair cells are of different sizes that react to different tones and pitches. The inner ear translates vibrations into electrical signals. The electronic signals are carried into the brain by nerve cells called neurons via the cochlear nerve system. The signals travel along the cochlear nerve system to the brain's cerebral cortex. From there, it will activate almost every part of your brain, therefore affecting memory and mood, which are two very big contributions to why music can enhance a moment. Now, if you were to take all of that, everything that's already happening in your brain, and pair it with a moment on TV, where you're watching the actor depict the feelings that you're already feeling because of the song in the background, then it's like this crazy combination of overstimulation, and it's almost as if they've created an entirely new drug. The Summer I Turned Pretty uses music to elevate moments in the show in a few different ways. Firstly, they heavily use Taylor Swift's discography, and it's not just because the lyrics perfectly match the moment, but it's because both Taylor Swift and The Summer Turned Pretty heavily rely on storytelling in their writing styles. Because the show is based off a book series, obviously writing and storytelling plays a really big part to it, but specifically narration is quite often used in the show to pinpoint the gravity of a feeling one of the characters is experiencing. And it's a skill that both Taylor Swift and the show have mastered and therefore get to share. Secondly, the show associates itself with one space: summer. It's released in the summer. It's written about the summer, even if not every single episode takes place in the summer. It still allows for that specific season to set a tone, which then creates this dependable feeling when you turn the show on or you listen to the soundtrack. You know what you're going to get, which is probably why when the characters aren't at the beach house in Cousins, it doesn't feel like the same show. Thirdly, The Summer I Turned Pretty lets music speak just as much as the actors. Danish writer Hans Christian Andersen wrote, "When words fail, music speaks." And in many ways, the show has taken in this principle and used it as a tool. We Can't Be Friends by Ariana Grande in Season 3, Episode 7 is an example of this. When the Party's Over, sung by James Blake in the same episode, is an example of this. Mystery Love in Season 3, Episode 2 is also an example of this. And lastly, the soundtrack to every season is full of very well-known songs, which sounds like a given when you're producing a show, but they're not just in there because they're TikTok hits, but rather because the more you know a song, the better the odds are that you have a personal connection or memory attached to it. So when you hear it in a show, the brain then prompts you to recall that memory or moment that you have connected to it, making that watching experience very personal to you. For instance, when With or Without You came on, I remember pausing the show and telling my friend, "No, pay attention to what song is playing right now." And that was because With or Without You and the entire Joshua Tree album by U2 has been a piece of work that has followed me throughout my entire life. And because of that personal connection, when I was then watching that scene, I immediately felt more drawn to what Conrad was experiencing emotionally in that moment because I had already connected that music emotionally to myself. This is not only intentional, but extremely important when you're developing a piece of art that you want people to connect to and relate to. Which brings me to the second part of today, the psychology of community through music. The most powerful songs all have one thing in common. They are all honest. They may be honest about vastly different things like tears or laughter or joy or pain, but they will all be a genuine reflection of that artist. The braveness of an artist to be sincere can be striking in the moments that we feel the most alone. And that feeling of bonding to a song can carry us throughout a lifetime. For me, I think about songs like Cactus Tree by Joni Mitchell and Moon River sung by Audrey Hepburn and Play It Out by Wolf Alice, Know Your Name by the Backseat Lovers, Chin Up by Sam Fender, Acid Eyes by Paolo Nutini. I could generally go on and on and on. But the incredible part about these songs is that they don't stop there. Loving something so deeply allows you the opportunity to make that deep of a connection with someone who loves it just as much as you. It's that moment when you say, "This is my favorite movie" to the new friend that you just made, and they look at you and say, "That's my favorite movie." Art allows us this shortcut to bonding without having to give your entire life story. For instance, if I were to meet someone who said they love Radiohead, without them telling me, I know that, just like me, they think about things way too much. Or if I were to meet someone who could recite every word to Cruisin' for a Bruisin' from Teen Beach Movie, then I would know that somewhere along the line, we shared the same childhood. The benefit of community and relationship is a given. But when we get to share a similar interest with that group or that friendship, it improves our sense of self because we feel understood. There are people out there that not only see us, but feel the same way about the things that we do. It might sound silly to equate such valuable experiences to a show, but it's true. Just like supporting any sports team. When you can root for a desired outcome with like-minded people, it allows you to feel a part of something bigger than yourself. If you're watching this or listening to this, then you're probably no stranger to the creation of a good playlist. What was once a perfectly curated mixtape is now a themed and cleverly titled playlist. I think one positive part of the modern distribution of music is that now you don't have to be a composer or a music supervisor to create a moment through music. You can just be a girl in a room with some headphones, a good prompt, and 40 minutes to kill. So I'm here today to validate all the time you spend making playlists on Spotify or Apple Music for no one but yourself. And you bet I'm going to tell you why it's good. Creativity improves our mood. It lowers cortisol, and it gives us a sense of belonging. But it also gives us the type of rest that we tend to neglect the most. Not sleep, but active rest. Which means rather than scrolling TikTok, you're engaging in an album that you used to love but forgot about. Or rather than spiraling in your mind, you're actually writing down what you're thinking about. A lot of the times we can find ourselves exhausted even after the proper amount of rest or correct physical care of our body. And that's because we're not properly taking care of our mental health. It's because when you think you're giving your brain a rest, you're actually still processing a million things at once. Multitasking used to be something that I took a lot of pride in until I realized I couldn't watch a movie without doing something else. Until I realized I couldn't make a coffee without having a YouTube video on in the background to fill those few seconds that I would wait for the coffee to drip out of the machine. I was trying to fill every single moment of silence rather than just letting my brain wander on its own. And I was exhausted. Nobody is not creative. It just looks different for all of us. For me, it comes out the most through recording memories, and that could be through videography, through pictures, through writing, through making playlists, through scrapbooking. But for you, It could be completely different. It could be writing songs. It could be cooking. It could be building birdhouses. It could be how to be a great coach. It could be knitting. It could be playing video games. It could be anything. At the core of creativity is just solving a problem. It's thinking about new ways to do something. It's about seeing things with a new perspective, and it's necessary for us all to engage in it. So, if you find yourself making a million Pinterest boards, now you have a justification for it. You're welcome. No, but seriously, engaging in creation is an important part to feeling fulfilled and experiencing joy. To quote Rick Rubin, regardless of whether or not we're formally making art, we are living as artists. We perceive, filter, and collect data, then curate an experience for ourselves and others based on this information set. Whether we do this consciously or unconsciously, by the mere act of being alive, we are active participants in the ongoing process of creation. Thomas Bragg, one of the creators of the YouTube channel Yes Theory, said, "Humans have the gift to prescribe meaning to the mundane." And that's what I want you to take out of this episode. Think about the ways that you can use music to enhance your life. Let the small moments mean more. Make a 2-tier mirror glazed chocolate cake with raspberry coulis just because you can. Let's let music bring us together. And don't forget to grow up slowly.